to 46 as Robertson is pouring them in and the Tigers are pouring them in. Crispus Attacks. And it's now 95 to 73. It's 22-point edge. 95 points in a high school game. Championship game at that. That's Isiah.
Before there was a Michael,
Robertson,
or a Magic, or Kareem, there were players named Willie, Hallie, Bailey, John, Bill, Stan, Henry, Sam, and Oscar. You might not remember our name, but you will never forget our story.
I was the youngest of 7 kids, and when I came up north, I think I was 8. I remember going to the field, helping pick cotton, and, you know, going to school, walking to school. But other than that, I don't remember a whole lot, you know. And I remember that some places that you went in, I mean, you had to wait your turn so they could decide to wait on you or not, you know. If you walked on the sidewalk, you had to make sure that the white people had the right of way, you know, when you stepped aside.
Having been born and raised in the South, my brothers and I, Oscar and Bailey, who is deceased at this point, we were raised in an environment where you knew, I guess racism was more prevalent. We went to separate schools there prior to coming here, so we pretty much understood that how to carry ourselves. We already were aware of that.
We'd ride back to Tennessee on the bus in the summer, see our grandparents, and you had to ride in the back of the bus. There were no eating places along the way. You couldn't go to the bathrooms, anything whatsoever. And I guess, you know, you get your little bag, a box of chicken or whatnot, and you stayed on the bus and you ate it.
I had an aunt who was a beautician, and I went downtown to visit her, and went across the street to a restaurant to get her lunch. This is 1954. I certainly didn't think of myself as being a pioneer, but I went to the lunch counter to get the food and was told that I'd have to take it out. I mean, it was going out anyhow, but I just couldn't believe it. It was something I just wasn't ready to accept.
Some of the fellows wanted to go to a movie and to eat at town, and some of the places we couldn't get in. That was my first experience of that, you know, that kind of prejudice.
You know what place you could go, what place you couldn't go. You know, if you went downtown to the show, you had to sit up in the balcony, you know.
We couldn't go to Ayers' tea room and sit down and eat. And many times later, when my daughter was modeling there, I often wished that my dad could see her because he was a chef cook at Ayers for 20 years, but we couldn't go there. We couldn't go to movies and sit down. We couldn't sit down and eat in the 10-cent stores. We'd have to take our little 5-cent root beer and hot dog down to the end of the counter and eat it, but you just learn to adjust to those things.
You had problems with branching out into areas of the city, basically, where you knew that you were not wanted, so to speak. Movie theaters, restaurants, things of this nature. It was a known fact that they didn't want you there. So you just had a problem with that.
Years before I was born, the KKK wanted to make sure that blacks stayed separate from whites. So in 1927, the city of Indianapolis opened Crispus Attacks High School. It was an all-black school named after the first American killed during the Revolutionary War.
You must know the history of the school, that it was, created by the Klan to be a separate school. And if, in fact, they thought that it would be a failure, they were far from correct, because it turned out to be a monument. It turned out to be a monument to the community, a monument for the community.
Crispus Attacks had more staff personnel with PhDs and MAs than any other school. And all of our teachers were good role models because they presented their best. So we had an image to look up to. We had to represent ourselves and our parents wherever we went.
Once the deed was done, it seemed that the people at Crispus Attacks came to love their school.
My dad went to Attacks, my mom went to Attacks. See, Attacks represented more than a school. It was like family, it was a tradition. We were always taught that you had to be twice as good because we were black in order to make it.
We used to walk to school right through here. It used to be a little street called Baker Street, if I'm not mistaken. We'd go across that and go right over to Attacks. And I don't know, I don't think it's that far. It's less than a mile, but it seemed like it was a long way. Now, this used to be Lock Street, if I'm not mistaken. And I lived in a little shotgun house. It was right down one of these streets here. Because if this Walnut Street is still here, my cousin lived on Walnut Street. So we passed, so I lived right back there.
In the area surrounding Attacks, Lockfield, all that area, Senate Avenue was about the poorest neighborhoods in the city at that time.
Lockfield Gardens was the best place in Indianapolis when it was first opened for blacks to live. When I came, this housing was very poor. No plumbing, things like that.
Well, at the time, we had one school to go to, and not many choices. And basketball was an outlet for us. We didn't have a lot of money, a lot of toys, so we played with the ball.
My mother couldn't read and write, and 5 children, and I'm living in a house with no running water. So, I just didn't see no out but basketball.
Most of us kids in the black neighborhoods would just throw one up out in the alley, behind the house or anything, be it a peach crate or actual basket. And you can always get a ball. And as we said, we'd start hooping.
I really think that has something to do with Oscar Robertson. Because when we were small kids, and he got a basketball. So where I live, we put a court up. And every morning, as soon as the sun come up, he'd come and throw rocks at my window, wake me up, come on, we'd play basketball. That's mainly how I got started.
The main thing that got us into basketball was the Dust Bowl. That was over in Locksville. We used to have some of the best tournaments over there. And everyone would assemble. And when we practice, if you win, you play. If you lose, you go home. So it was very successful.
The Dust Bowl term came from a situation when we were playing on Colton Street, where I lived. There was a house that was pushed down, and push the house down. What the young kids who have nothing to do, they go and start playing basketball. They put up a hoop there, but in the hot summer days, it would get so dusty, and we called it Dust Bowls.
When we get out of school, that was the first place we went to the court, to play basketball the rest of the day. The big old he was at, and he was a little small thing then, but he could compete real good with us. He wouldn't let us use his basketball unless we let him play.
But we had to sit back and watch first, and then somebody, if we got a chance to play together against them, then we was going to prove ourselves. and pattern ourselves after some of the older players, and that really helped us a whole lot.
At first, you know, you had to prove yourself to the older guys that you could really play and win. Because until you could play and win, they wouldn't let you play at all.
The bad men showed up there, you know. If you had a game, you had to come out there, you know. Okay, where you played, if you had a game, it would come up. If you didn't have a game, it would still come up. But you had to have a game to play.
We start playing at 7 in the morning until about 10 at night. And don't ask us how we could see, because I don't know. I guess that's why those guys came out, was so good. You know, we used to play at night, morning to night, didn't stop.
And then after it got dark, Oscar would still be out there playing. We'd be gone to another project then. And Oscar would still be shooting that ball, so he could probably shoot the ball in the dark.
Just a bunch of poor kids playing basketball and loved the game. And when Ray Crowe came, boom, that did it.
When I was transferred from School 17 to Attucks as the assistant basketball coach, Mr. Lyons, Fitzhugh Lyons, was the head coach, and worked with him and trying to prepare the team, you know, for the tournaments, the sectional tournament and all. And I never will forget the first sectional we played in after I got there. We played Ben Davis. And Ben Davis beat us that afternoon. So that means we were out of the tournament. And Coach Lyons said, well, might as well get beat now as later. And my attitude is we don't ever get beat. That was my philosophy. Nobody beats us.
We used to go watch those games ourselves before we even started playing. And me and Davis, we would go watch them play, and every year they would lose. They carry lunch baskets and chicken and everything to the ball game, and they go away and they don't lost. And so me and Davis put our mind up, and we said, well, when we go over there, we're going over there to win. Ain't gonna be no losing.
Before Mr. Crowe began to coach the team, we were kind of a one-dimensional team. We relied mostly on one scorer, and he wanted him to take most of the shots. So that was a good idea, but it wasn't too successful for us as a team because we wanted to win.
Ray Crowe, when he took over, he instituted a little bit more freer style basketball than what they had had before then. Because the year before Ray took over, Attucks played here in the sectionals, and they got beat the first game. And when Ray took over the following year, they went all the way to the Final Four.
When you look back at that era of basketball, the men coaching in that era were some of the most inventive and free-thinking, you know, coaches to ever come along. Because a lot of the things that we do today came out of that era.
There was so much made of Phil Jackson and the three-corner offense. But he's now attributed as the guy that founded the three-corner. And the three-corner is simple, but we played it all the time.
Well, I started the quicker style when I first started coaching. That is a fast break. Every opportunity we got, we would fast break, try and get down the floor before the defense got there and got set up. Yeah, this is the first team I coached. Hallie's here, number 34.
He allowed us to play out of our naturalness, and he didn't have a lot of rules that would cause us to have to do just like other players do. He saw something different.
Hallie was just like a machine. We knew he was ready for the ball all the time. So when we gave him the ball, we know it was going to be good before he even put his hands on it.
But the jump shots and the drive-ins, things like that, and I think I had seen the Globetrotters when I was a little bit of a kid, so I was doing things out of the ordinary.
Bailey Robertson, Oscar's brother, 43. Willie Gardner, 44.
Willie played a couple of years ahead of me, but the best I ever seen, the best I ever seen. He was about 6'6". He could play guard, forward, center, anything, and he was good at it. I mean, I never seen. Julius Erving was a carbon copy of Willie, and Willie was doing it in the 50s, and Julius played when, you know, not too long ago. He was doing the same thing then that these guys are doing now.
This may sound like a lie, but it's the truth. I recall very vividly when he hit a right-handed hook shot from deep in the corner, went to the other side, hit a left-handed hook shot from deep in that corner. And he was just too tough. He really was. I mean, he was a bad man.
He came from a very poor family and all, and he was working in a bowling alley there, and he was missing days of school working at this bowling alley to help his mother.
Well, I wanted to be sure that my mother was fed.
He decided he's going to quit school and just go to the alley and work. Fellas told me about that, and I went down to the bowling alley and had a talk with him. He was in school the next day and stayed.
Mr. Crowe turned everything around, as far as I'm concerned, for his father figure, and I wanted to play competitive basketball, most of all. And there was only 7 teams in the NBA at the time. And I was fortunate enough to get a contract with the New York Knicks.
Gary Rosebud begins to pick up their scoring pace.
At that time, when I first started, we was not playing in Annapolis schools, playing in small schools around over the state.
And they didn't have a full city schedule, so they had to go out to 40, 50 miles outside of town, and they were a novelty. It was almost like bringing the Harlem Globetrotters to town.
They didn't really play a lot of teams in the city because during those days, the city was such, the social order was, they didn't want to play against the blacks at all.
We just played around the state and then all the little country schools, you know.
The farmers would come out and they'd just say, some of them the first time they'd ever seen a black person up close, and they would just marvel at them. And they'd see the running and jumping and shooting.
You ever heard of Hope, H-O-P-E? I didn't think you had. Hope, Indiana. Of course, we played Terrell Gershmeyer, you heard them.
We had to travel way up north into Sheridan and then way down south.
New Winchester, you ever heard of that? No.
On the 51 team, there were probably 4 guys who could stuff the basketball, so they'd always get in a row, and they would go up and just jam the ball in there, you know. And these people would just look, mouths hanging open, so they'd never seen anything like that before.
But after they started progressing and doing so well, then all the teams wanted to play them.
Of course, we started winning and beating the heck out of everybody, and then they wanted to jump on the bandwagon, you know.
Looks like he might have had that one. Down fast. There's Merriweather along, and he got it.
But when Mr. Crowe came and took over, we had a wide open game. And it made it very easy for us to beat teams.
You can tell by the scores, I think they used to be about 49 or 50 points. When they played in 51, I think they started hitting 80, 90, even 100 sometimes, you know.
Attucks' team was fluid motion. These people were passers, long passers, runners. This was up and down the court style, sort of rip and shoot, and it did catch everybody a little bit off base. Others sort of learned how to adapt to this. But this was a breakthrough in terms of Indiana basketball.
They were so much more athletic, and again, they had some fast break style to them, and it was just very intimidating to play against them.
We were playing Anderson, and we went into the 4th quarter. I don't know how many points down we were, but we were considerably down. Bailey was a reserve player, and I forget who fouled out or they weren't doing very well against whomever they were supposed to be guarding. So Mr. Crowe put Bailey in, and Bailey and the rest of them picked up the momentum and began to score. And so Anderson chose to play us to the wire. Well, after exchanging a few buckets, we caught up with them. And it was down to the final seconds, and they kicked the ball out to Bailey, and he hit the shot that was heard around the world, I think.
There's one in the corner. It's good.
Back in those days, the majority of the schools were white, and we were all black, and our section sat on one side, their section sat on the other. So say, like it or not, it was like the blacks against the whites. And when Bailey hit that shot, you could, this section over here, I think it was this side of the field house, went up in smoke. And over there, it was very dull and drab. And everybody was pretty dismayed by the outcome.
People started noticing Alex, which they didn't figure we'd ever do anything, but he came and changed the whole atmosphere.
They went someplace where nobody, no team from Attucks has ever been. And that's all we could think about is when we get over there, we're going to do the same thing they did.
And we had one television in the neighborhood, and everybody was around their televisions. And we watched every game that they played. They were the reason why I decided to go to Attucks. Just watching them play and wanting to be a part of the tradition and seeing all the hoopla and the hurrah and stuff, I think that influenced me to go to school, just watching them.
Basketball really boomed then, after that. After the 51 season, it really started.
Precious Lord, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me home.
Mr. Crowe, he wanted to win. He wasn't out there just to satisfy, being black. He wanted you to win the game. Before Mr. Crowe took over, we had a coach that, as long as you satisfied the public, don't stir nothing, don't act up, be on your best behavior. That's all matter. Coach Ray Crowe wanted you on your best behavior and act decent and be a good citizen, but he also wanted to win basketball games.
My philosophy, I guess, would have to say, was to teach these young men, the facts of life and how to deal with the situation, the racial situation, and the basketball situation that we was going to be a part of.
You worked hard. You worked hard, because if you didn't work hard, you didn't play. You didn't make the team.
He was not a Bobby Knight, but he was very strict. And they knew better than to disobey what he told them to do because he commanded their respect without being violent.
He set rules, told you what he expected. He followed the rules. I never saw him break a rule. And that helps you in life.
Pretty well respected Mr. Crowe pretty well. If we got in trouble to fall back on the school, and we didn't want that.
He had everybody understanding that, you had to be in school. So there was no such thing as missing school and playing. And I can't even remember anybody missing.
I think he was about it. Still think of him now all the time, And anytime they say, Ray Crowe wants you to come here, boom, we go. We pack and go, Oh, he was just something. He was God sent to Attucks at the time,
My high school background and all, we're all white kids and all, and I just learned to live with the people and no problems at all.
I guess the way his background was such that he grew up in Whiteland, Indiana, and he had been around whites, and we had not, and I guess he was a person who taught about attitude and about going to school, studying, and all those things like that.
And I'll never will forget, I did my practice teaching at Attucks High School and all, and I had never seen so many black people in all my life.
I think he has done just about everything that was available in the city back then in the 50s. I know he worked at a Shell station over on Fall Creek Boulevard. He worked at American Can Company. He mopped floors at Blocks. He had an ice cream route one time when they used to have ice cream men come around in the summer, and he had an ice cream truck.
All of us come from poor families, so some just could work, and the garden was setting pens too, you see, and Mr. Crowe had to almost beg him to go to school and help. Mr. Crowe would do little things for us, and you didn't have lunch money. I never had lunch money, but he always made sure we get lunch and stuff like that,
I guess he felt that much about me, that knowing what I needed, which at that time was some socks. And so
without no fanfare or anything about it. It was in my locker. And it stuck with me till this day.
And I think he influenced me most by being concerned about whether we ate, whether we had clothes, when we went to bed, he would check on us and tell us that we had to be in by 9 o'clock, and he would call and didn't want to talk to our mothers or anybody who wanted to talk to us. And so that was just showing that he cared, really.
I would have rather went to Attucks and sit on the bench than went to anywhere in the city and been a star. I mean, that's the way we felt about it.
When the team started winning, the people started coming around. And they were very proud of Attucks because they had nothing to cheer about in Indianapolis.
I live to hear the crazy song, but the only way you're going to hear it is win. So that's the reason why I fought so hard to win. I just love to hear it.
Simply a chant that the audience took up as they recognized that the other team didn't have a chance to come back. And I think it really angered the other team, but it became a song that was very popular around the city.
Normally they sang the song when they were way ahead, 10, 15, 20 points. The outcome was not in doubt.
The crowd was waiting anxiously for us to do it, so we had to please the crowd.
And there would be maybe 2 or 3 minutes to go in the game, and they'd start in this crazy song.
They loved to hear it, and the opposing team hated to hear it.
The jargon today is when the fat lady, sings.
It's a good feeling, you knew it was all over, you had it wrapped up, Yeah.
I wanted to hear it every time, so I know you had to win every time.
You heard that song, somebody had to lose. And I said, not us.
When we started singing the crazy song, you could put the chairs in the wagon because the party was over.
Oh, Tech is rough, and Tech is tough.
They can beat
everybody, but they can't beat us. Hidey, 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 hidey. Hidey, 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 ho. Oh, skip, bop, beat 'em. That's the crazy song. Well, they scored some points right over the line, but we never did mind. They were so far behind. Hidey, 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 hide. Hidey, 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 ho. Oh, skip, bop, beat 'em. That's the crazy song. That's the crazy song. Yeah!
So Attucks became like the hope of the community. When they played at Butler Fieldhouse, it was filled with community people, and they greatly supported it. They were supported by the entire African-American community and many in the white community.
Here's an all-black school playing against teams that are either all white or integrated, and on some level, there's a level of satisfaction for the black community that comes out of this team because of their incredible success. What good can come out of this, but also the limits that are still placed upon the school, the fact that segregation is the whole reason for the school existing in the first place and for this team's success. So definitely there's an ironic situation there.
After other schools saw what kind of following we had and what kind of crowds we had at our games and the money we was making, they wanted to play us.
They played a dynamic style. They had tremendous athletes. The first time everyone in Indianapolis was at least curious about Attucks and wanted to go see them in person. So they were a tremendous draw.
When we would come out on the floor, there was such a great sense of excitement, and the crowd was into it. I think our regular season game there, we had over 14,000, and it was the largest crowd ever to see a high school basketball game.
If you were to play them at Butler Fieldhouse, you were going to split the gate receipts, which meant that it made great sense to go play Attucks because 10,000 people come to watch them in every game.
Indianapolis benefited commercially. Butler Fieldhouse especially benefited commercially because whenever we played there, it was full. So they benefited, but yet the benefit was not sufficient enough for them to say, yes, they can stay here and go to the cafeteria and eat.
The segregated barriers were beginning to break a little bit on their own. And we had quite a bit of support from the white population. But there again, there was always that faction that really resented the fact that this black team was coming in doing things that no white team had ever done. Ray was a hard taskmaster, and he used to tell them all the time that when you go in, you know 9 times out of 10 the referees are going to be against you. He said, so don't look at me when you get a bad call. Keep putting the ball in the basket. The team that puts the ball in the basket most wins the game. We go in, we get the first 10 points for the referee, and then we start playing.
We always believed we could beat any team that we played against. So only 2 people we had to beat were the referees.
And he said, I don't want to hear about what some referee said or did to you. You play the best ball you can, and you won't have to worry about what the referees do.
You basically look at it like you playing 7 guys and they playing 5, and that's the attitude that we had.
Well, I tried to prepare the players for the officiating that I knew we were going to have because, of course, they were all white officials, and I think they were showing some prejudice in officiating the games, and I tried to teach my players just to accept this and just play that much harder.
I, for one, was on the end of a fast break by them, and I was cutting off the lane and went all the way to the out-of-bounds line where I put my foot on the out-of-bounds line, and one foot was inside, and the player dribbled right around me, around onto the out-of-bounds, onto somebody's feet, and went around for a layup, and the referees never called it. And that was one incident that I'll vividly remember because there wasn't anywhere for him to go. And so all he would have done was charge it over me. We would have got the ball back, and then we would have probably won the game. And so that was a difference in that game.
He used to always say we should jump out and get ahead because we're going to have a pretty rough time down the road, which we did a lot of times, you know, and we stuck to that, you know. So when the ball was tipped up, we usually try to get a 10, 15-point lead because in the 4th quarter, it got kind of rough. Refereeing, rough, you know.
Mr. Crowe, he just told us, don't argue with the officials. If they call a foul, just raise your hand.
Merriweather on the foul.
You know, that's one problem I had with Oscar. I had to take him out of the game. He was on the officials, you know. I took him out, sat him down beside me, tried to explain to him. It only made things worse. I tried to get him to deal with that situation the same way I did.
There's just so many things that went wrong on the court, but that was his decision to do. I mean, that's what he should have done. And if he felt that I wasn't doing the right thing as an athlete, he should have taken me out of the game.
Hallie was dribbling down the floor, going toward the basket, and they called a charge and foul on Hallie. I mean, those kind of things just live with you for years. It wasn't fair, and we were kids, and we didn't understand it quite well then, you know. But now, looking back, you know what happened, you know.
So if you want to complain, who are you going to complain to? So you just never was no complaining. We never had a technical foul called against us because, you know, we always was under the impression that we had to be nice people and we ought to be fortunate that they even let us play from the beginning. Now, the only game I was ever relaxed in is when we played Gary Roosevelt because 2 black teams. So you just figure, well, it's going to be fair.
The Klan went underground, but that doesn't mean it died. And there were still a lot of people who did not want to see blacks playing on an equal footing with the white schools. And some of that was within the official core, too.
If it wasn't for Coach Watford and our athletic director being the front man, making arrangements, we would have, when we went out of town, we wouldn't have been able to feed the boys until we got back home. But Coach Watford would always go to the town, get with the athletic director, and find some place that would feed the team. And he had to do that even here in the city.
Many times we'd have them bring bags of sandwiches and drinks on, and they said, well, you know, it's late and we have to get back. I never thought that It's late. It's late, but this is it. We brown bagging it because there's no place for us to go, because no one would receive us. I never really looked at it that way until later because they were covering. They were covering for us.
It wasn't mostly the kids we had the problem, but older white people, you know, didn't want to see us. I remember, I'm not going to call his name, basketball coach at one of the universities here. They used to say, "Have you ever seen a team like that Attucks team?" He said, "Well, they just jump high, a bunch of black guys, got hair all over their face, you know, that type thing, you know." But never would admit that best they ever seen, you know. I'm not going to call any names, but there's quite a few of them around there like that, you know.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn.
Just like a lot of other guys, I'd stand on the corner and was doing nothing. And I guess I thought I knew what was going on, and I really didn't, and that got boring. I was talking to Ray Crowe. He said, you know, you're a good basketball player and you got some talent. You haven't been standing on the corner. You need to get back in school. And that's what I did.
I came out in 54. I played 2 years. I played with Hallie 1 year and then played with Oscar the other year. So you see, I didn't handle the ball too much either year, you know. Maybe I would have made it somewhere if I could have, but with those guys, Willie Gardner, it was pretty rough. It was pretty rough, I tell you.
I had two older brothers, Bailey and Henry. Bailey played ball at Attucks first before I did. That's where I probably started to play basketball because I saw them play.
Oscar was playing reserve basketball, and I told Mr. Crowe that he was a heck of a player, and why didn't he move him up to the varsity team in 54, which he did, you know. And so that was history.
Oscar was in junior high school. The first time I saw him play, he played at Tech High School in the junior high school city tournament. And I could see then he was going to be an outstanding player.
Oscar was the epitome of a basketball player. Whatever we needed, he would provide it. We needed outside shooting in case they played a zone. That's what we practiced on that week, and that's where he'd go, and he'd break down the zone defense.
I remember he used to pass me the ball and would hit me in the chest all the time. And finally, at a timeout, he said, "Gibson, you ever catch the ball?" So I had to work on that part of my game, you know.
Whatever we needed, Oscar could do it. He could see the whole floor at all times. He was on one side, I was on the other. If I didn't get the rebound, I knew Oscar had it.
He understood how to make his teammates better. He understood all areas of the game. He understood how to get a good shot, what was a good shot, and he was a deep thinker of the game. You know, he just did it. He did all parts of it.
When we played him, although he was quiet, he would kind of talk to me. He would say, "Hollett, what are you going to do with that ball? What are you going to do with that ball, Hollett?" And of course, if I were honest, I would have said, not a hell of a lot.
Merriweather, missed it. Rebound, missed it. Comes off with it. No good. Robertson got it in.
Might sound a little conceited, but I could see a lot of myself in Oscar at that young age. And in fact, I'd sent him, when I was in the Army, I'd sent him a letter stating that he would be the greatest basketball player ever come out of Attucks.
I'd tell anybody that he was really the greatest basketball player that I ever seen and ever played against, and that includes all these guys today.
And the statement that he made that always stuck with me was, you play as you live. And the way you carry yourself off the court, the way you conduct yourself off the court, is the way you'll end up playing on the court. The things that he stood for and the way that he carried himself, even if you didn't know about Oscar Robertson, when you saw him as a man, he had a great presence about himself that made you want to look at him and made you want to emulate the way he was and the things that he did.
My first time playing against Tech, I was a sophomore. We played them at Butler Fieldhouse, and I'll never forget, because before we played them, I got a threatening call at home and said that if I played, I would be shot. And that's a funny thing. I was on the phone, and I guess my father heard me talking to someone on the phone. I probably said a few things I shouldn't have said, and he said, "What's going on? What are you talking about?" I said, "Well, someone just said if I played, they would shoot me." And he called up the local authorities, and they had people all around and whatnot. But I think it was someone trying to get me upset, get our team upset, so we would not win the game.
In 1954, Oscar and Bill Mason led our team to the semifinal round of the state tournament. Our opponent was a small country school from Milan, Indiana.
I happened to be playing that game, you know. He didn't think too much about it. Of course, we didn't think we'd have as much trouble with him as we did, because, of course, they stalled the ball a lot, you know. We wasn't used to that, but you got to give it to them. They had a job, and they did it. They just did it.
Our team was just missing key players, and I'll say myself, because I patrol the backboard and I patrolled everything underneath, and I controlled the defense. So my ability to jump, and I was quick, you know. So things that they were able to get away with, I don't think they would have been able to get away with it had I been there. And that's what Bobby Plump was telling me. He just didn't think that they would have been able to beat us.
Milan just had a real good team. They had a plan. They stuck with it. They had played the slow down we call basketball, where they just control the ball and slow the game down. And we're used to running, you know.
He said he didn't think we'd have too much trouble with them. Little country school like that, he don't think we'd have much trouble with them, you know. And at the halftime, I think he changed a little bit. You know, 'cause I think they were leading by 3 or 4 points, and they hold the ball so much, you know. And I think he got kind of serious the third quarter. He started scratching his head, you know. Things looked pretty rough for us.
And they picked and rolled, and they beat us. They had a better team than we did.
The starting lineup for Crispus Attacks was Oscar Robertson and Willie Merriweather at the forwards, Cedric Mitchell at center, and Bill Scott and Bill Hampton at guard.
We done played perfect games, no turnovers. I mean, and I'm talking about we hitting 100 points, 123 points, and we playing 8-minute quarters. So, you know, if we get that many points in 32 minutes, that is some perfection going on.
It was so obvious to us that they were so far superior to anybody we had played against, and they were so tough to have lost one game with a tough schedule they had.
We always figured like we was in better shape than anybody else, and that we can outrun anybody else, we can outjump anybody else, we can outshoot anybody else.
And also, they didn't play home games, so they had to play a lot of their games at either Tech High School or Butler Fieldhouse, and so they didn't even have a home court advantage.
If you look at Attucks during those days, a group of kids who were thought of to do all these great, terrible things to a city, I think we were marvel students, really.
We had one loss in 1955 to Cartersville. The next day at practice, Mr. Crowe told us that no one had a starting position on the team. We had to earn it, and from then on, we never lost another game.
Here's Oscar Robertson. Beautiful shot. Oscar is off. 2-0. Attucks. Joe working.
I felt like we would have a chance to win the championship before the tournament started. Had some very good players. This team is the 1955 team. Here's Oscar here, 43.
There goes Robertson around. In there.
There's Willie Merriweather, 24.
Robertson drives in. No good, but Merriweather got it.
Shedrick Mitchell, 44.
There goes Mitchell. Beautiful. And Attic starts that terrific scoring pace. He picks up speed, goes in, it's in there. Beautiful play. Hampton firing and running. And pass to Robertson from the corner. Terrific. Mitchell cuts. Good. Gibson firing. Good.
It was exciting, though, because you could see the city begin to come together and rally behind someone who was doing well.
Let that eye underneath that basket. Gang from Indianapolis, public and parochial schools.
Bill Hampton is 34.
Robertson, the rebound to Hampton. Hampton firing and hitting.
Bill Scott is 14.
Scott stealing again to Hampton. No good, but Scott gets the rebound.
Bill Brown, 23.
Brown firing, good.
There's Sam Milton, 33.
Milton is going to come in for Shedrick Mitchell. 97 to 74. Only 8 seconds to go. The guy's going to get there. 6 seconds. There's Ford firing. And it's all over. Indianapolis wins their first state basketball championship.
I was so happy about winning, and it was just the greatest thing and greatest thrill that any young person, not only if you're an all-black team, but any youngster playing in Indianapolis then could experience.
We've had teams in the final games before, but Indianapolis has never come through. And Crispus Attacks of Indianapolis is now the state basketball champion for the first time in Indianapolis history.
It seemed like at that time, the city was behind us because they wanted the championship to come here. It was the first black team in the country to ever win a state championship.
I guess that would have to be the greatest feeling all during my teaching and coaching career was to win that championship the first time.
It made the whole community feel good to have this team because they had something that they could look at with pride, something they could boast about, something they could go out and watch, and something they could share accomplishment with. I think it was important to the entire black community.
The black community was out in full force, and the pride that exuberated that night, it was awesome.
We were on the mountain, Mohammed didn't come to us, so I guess we went to Mohammed.
Now 95 to 73.
We didn't think of ourselves being an all-black team. We just were a group of young people
Robertson
in high school in Indianapolis, Indiana.
He'll fire from the corner. Could be in.
Who were just competing like anyone else and trying to win.
30 points for him. That's 97 to 73. 3 more points is all they need. Eubank.
I think winning the championship brought an awareness to the attention of the people at Crispus Attacks and to blacks that we were somebody and we were a force to be reckoned with. And hey, look at us. You need to pay attention. We're on the rise.
After games, they start letting us eat at the restaurants downtown, just because of this basketball. It really helped, white and black.
Well, that was the defining point for me. You can win against all obstacles. All you got to do is stand up and fight back.
Imagine what it would be like to think that there's a group of people who certainly sort of have their foot on your neck, and there's not much that you can do, and then your team goes out and trounces them, or their team. Imagine how good that would make you feel. And so it was really a black-white issue, and I don't think there's any getting around that.
That gave everyone in the black community, I think throughout the state, a little more pride in being black and what we can accomplish. I tell you, I think a guy that enjoyed it as much as we did, maybe more, was my dad, because he could go to work every day feeling a lot better and tell all the white guys we beat your ass. And don't think he didn't hesitate to do it. It was customary for the winning team to get on a fire truck, and so we thought, go downtown and sort of celebrate.
And they took us down and around the circle downtown, and then back out to Northwestern Park, it was called then, and had a big bonfire and celebrated out there. Northwestern Park and black neighborhood. I guess that's just part of the feelings that the whites had. Let them do their thing in their own neighborhood.
Usually you go downtown to the circle here and on a fire truck, and you enjoyed the win. But we didn't get an opportunity to do that at all. I guess the people who ran the city felt that we would, being black, we would tear up the city, that we would be different than any other team that won. I mean, some things like that you never forgive people for. Myself, I don't know what the other guys would say about it.
They tell me they had extra police out watching our section and all, and watch us when they left the field house and all, and because they thought they'd be disorderly and tear up the field house and tear up the town.
We were given a ride on the fire truck down Meridian, I believe, and around the circle and back out again. But no, we never got off of the fire truck during that time. Where we got off at was at our bonfire. So I didn't even know that they did that on the circle. This is the first time I heard it, that other teams went out and did those things. I just thought that they was doing something special for us. So we were sort of naive about a lot of things. We were closed in to a lot of things that was happening.
I was later told, later years, that other teams celebrated. Fans came downtown and just more or less had a great time, but I found it rather odd that we were sort of scurried out there to have our celebration, even though we enjoyed it because it was all new to us.
Of course, nobody wants to take responsibility for a decision like that, but ironically, these decisions were made long before those events occurred. The fact that Crispus Attacks won the state championship was something that I think people had assumed and had already prepared this bonfire up at another part and basically had told them and directed them up to that place. This is where it's going to be. It's going to be in your community. And that was the excuse that was used and is often used. You know, you're going to feel much more at home if you do this in your community instead of in our community.
The next year, we didn't lose a game. We were undefeated and state champs for the second year in a row.
To receive the championship award.
Now you have Crispus Attacks, all-black school, undefeated, one loss in 2 years that changed the sports all over the world. It started right here at Crispus Attacks High School.
We were again denied the parade and celebration in downtown Indianapolis. I know if we were to come along now, things would be different. There would be scholarships to the best colleges, fame, money, and the opportunity to play in the NBA. But now that I'm older, I realize we were given something much better. Mr. Crowe became our coach, our mentor, and a father. He made us believe in ourselves, and together we changed the game of basketball. Mr. Crowe always said he didn't want boys to make a basketball team. He wanted basketball to make the boys.
When you talk about, Coach Crowe, men of that era, they really took the time to mold and coach young men. They believed in the philosophy of values, of discipline, in a style of play. It's very rare that you find people nowadays who are willing to do that for young men. And I think young men suffer because of that fact that there aren't enough leaders in the world who are willing to give their time to help make someone else's life better.
There has never been a better high school basketball team than that Crispus Attacks team that existed from 1954 until 1957. And you could do it by the athletes that it produced, you could do it by the record of the teams, you could do it by the state championships they won. For 3 years, Crispus Attacks owned basketball in the state and made a huge impact, not just in Indiana, but all around the basketball community.
Today, certainly there's a lot of opportunities for blacks in the basketball arena as well as the business arena. When I was coming along, or during the 50s, there were very few blacks in the NBA, virtually very few jobs for blacks. And as a result, those times sort of helped change the basketball world, so to speak.
Ray had said once before that life, you're going to have to face it. It doesn't face you, you have to face life. And you have to do things to bring about the good or bad, whatever way that you're going to look at it.
I know we'd beat all the odds. You know, I know we'd done something that the city or us as a people had risen up to do something that had never been done, and it was a lot of pride. And I know from that point on that people didn't have to like you, but they had to respect you.
When I went anywhere, I was proud to know that people knew that I was a part of Crispus Attacks High School. It was like a badge of honor and courage, because we had to weather a lot being black. But we didn't think of ourselves as being black. We thought of ourselves as being very, very good.
It makes me feel very good, and a lot of these fellows that played for them and all, they still tell me what an effect I had on their lives and how much they appreciated it, you know. It just makes me feel very good to think that I could help those kids. A lot of them came from some very poor backgrounds, you know. It was a stepping stone to something better. Just made better people of them.
I think I got more of my lessons from my dad by just watching him and realizing the kind of person that he was, you know, over and over and over again. There weren't any really kind of direct lessons where he, per se, sat down and tried to school me about something. I'm very proud, you know, to be his son and to know that he was instrumental in causing so many changes that have affected so many people.
I feel that I owe everything that I have basically to, obviously, to my parents, but to Mr. Crowe and to Crispus Attacks, because if I hadn't played basketball, I wouldn't have been able to go to college, because I went to college on an athletic scholarship.
Made me realize that we could accomplish some things through basketball, you know. I mean, it like got scholarships, offers everywhere, and we traveled all over the place. But if it wasn't for basketball, none of this would have never happened. I probably might not have finished high school.
Pacers fans, as the Pacers make their quest for a championship, the Indiana Pacers of the city of Indianapolis would like to honor Coach Ray Crowe and the basketball players that played for Crispus Attacks High School in the 1950s. Coach Ray Crowe, in 7 seasons,
brought the whole community together because everybody wanted to see us play, black and white. So that made some changes because it started bringing integration to the games because everybody wanted to see this Crispus Attacks basketball team.
His 1955 team was the first all-black basketball team in the nation to win a state championship.
Don't ever give up. You should be respected, and you should respect yourself. If you don't respect yourself, nobody else is going to respect you. Hold your head up high and continue. And I carry that the rest of my life.
Coach Ray Crowe. And with Coach Crowe, Hallie Bryant, John Noon Davis, Bill Mason, Bill Hampton, Stan Patton, Cleveland Harp, Sam Milton, and John Gibson, not able to be in attendance, but from those teams, Willie.
I think all people can see what's possible and not let barriers, not let people prejudices and people ignorance stop you from your goal.
people now say, you know, I'm a legend because of, you know, what happened during those years, and have a book written on me and calls me a basketball legend on the front of the book, you know. It was a legendary time for all of us blacks at that time.
It's important that we remember the coach and the boys who broke down the barriers for the future generations of our athletes, black and white. Basketball had changed our lives, and we changed the way basketball will forever be played.
Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, help me stand. I am tired, I am weak, I am worn.
Through the storm, through the night, lead me on to the light. Take my hand, precious Lord, lead me on, lead me on. Oh, tech is rough and tech is tough. They can beat everybody, but they can't beat us. Hidey, 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 hide. Hidey, 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 ho. Oh, skip, bop, beat 'em. That's the crazy song. Well, they scored some points right over the line, but we never did mind. They were so far behind. Hidey, 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 hide. Hidey, 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 ho. Oh, skip, bop, beat 'em. That's the crazy song. That's the crazy song.
They tried to clip their wings when the wind came, they still soared. Soared higher than imagined, so much more than any reward. This is for the people who need to know their story about the struggle for all the glory. I sing this song for them in the spirit of their rise. I sing this song for the children with dreams in their eyes. I sing my song for them in the way they change the time. I sing this song for those who still believe in sunshine. When you look into their eyes, all you see is pride. So you can understand why they would never run and hide. Stand up and stand strong. Let's push this weight along. That's why I stand here today and I sing for you this song. I sing this song for them in the spirit of their rise. Children with dreams in their eyes. Sing this song for the children. I sing my song for them in the way they change the time.